Hi guys, welcome to Investing with GYK, and today we'll discuss a little further on things that would affect GSH, Guangshen Railroad. So what I'm looking at on the screen is a policy that was, let's see if English works. Nope, doesn't work. A policy that was published in 2013, essentially saying that they want to reform the system under which the railroad investment is happening, and um, how to accelerate railroad construction. So the main thing, so they gave out like 6 different points. So let's there was okay, so a couple of things that would affect GSH. One is here, says to keep perfecting the pricing mechanism for railroads, and increasing the the price elasticity, and to change freight pricing from government government pricing to government guidance pricing, and also so basically these things. So that would increase GSH's earning power, because they are sitting, as we know already, they're sitting on the most desirable location in China in terms of a railroad, because that's between 2 out of the 4 top cities in China in terms of GDP and population, and also even as GDP growth. And then number 4 and number 5. So number 4 is saying that they are encouraging the comprehensive development and utilization of land. So what does that mean? To support the station and track land comprehensive development. My translation is all broken because I'm not very good at translating stuff. I speak both languages, but translation is a different thing, especially I'm translating on the fly. Now, so it also says something like to encourage existing railroad construction land's comprehensive development in both above ground and underground. So this is very similar to what Japan has in a lot of their stations. So that's something that would affect GSH. And then number 5 is saying like, oh, we need to be more market driven, and increase efficiency and all that stuff, essentially privatization and things like that. So, and increase existing assets return. So these are all good things. I'm gonna mute because there's feedback coming in. And this is a second, what do you call those things? A second policy coming out of the central government, specifically on supporting the comprehensive, supporting the opinions on supporting railroad construction and and realizing the comprehensive development of land. So that's also very important because at the moment, as you may recall from the previous video, GSH has a lot of stations that occupy a huge patch of land that they're not doing much with. So what they're saying is, okay, so let's find one that is. Well, the first one's basically saying that the urban area around the train station should form this symbiotic relationship with the train station, so both urbanization and the railroads can be sustainably developed. And the second one is not very interesting. It basically says, oh, we should introduce market forces. And the third one is the most, it is very important. Here it says, okay, we need to, so supports the railroad transportation enterprise, which is GSH is one of them, to reactivate and utilize existing construction land by developing, reselling, and leasing current land. And yeah, so that's that. And then in the end, it says to increase the financing ability and then return on railroad construction projects. And let's see what else. Yeah, and then this one says give existing railroad station comprehensive development, give policy support to the comprehensive development of land around railroad stations, and saying that, okay, they're going to be able to combine and split land to develop around the railway stations, and blah 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 blah. It's all that. And what else is there? It's not very interesting. Blah 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 blah. Okay, the rest is not super interesting. It's like monitoring and accountability and stuff like that. But that's in 2014. Now, changed to 2018, which is last year, in August, the government of Guangdong, which is where Guangzhou and Shenzhen both are, published their own interpretation and their own specific guidance on how to push this initiative, which is the supporting railroad construction and realizing comprehensive development of land thing. And in here, it basically gets more specific on how things should be done. Okay, so that's the policies. Now, what is actually happening? You can see in 2017, the this is the CRC, China Railway Corporation. So that is the mother of all railways in China, and they pushed 21 comprehensive development projects to basically build, as you can see, is by having railroad, and then you build these kind of stuff where you have commercial area, and then you have like parking and all that stuff. So that's being pushed. So that started in 2017, and the total amount of land that was involved in here is this amount, which multiplied by 666. No, it's not devil worshipping. It's just what it is essentially 13 million square meters. So they are pushing that. And then what else is there? I think there was... Excuse me. Sorry. The sneezes. So in here, this is a piece of news that said the CRC is now trying to build these how do you translate this? 综合体, damn it. It's basically a multifunctional building, urban multifunctional building around railroads. So they're trying to make these. So that would obviously increase the value of the land, and they're doing it. So they did how many? They released, there's not much in here, but I remember there was a couple of these pushes, and one of them was 4,000, 43,000 something. So yeah, so this is millions of square meters, tens of millions of square meters of land. And so that's what's happening. And now there's a rationale behind all this. Why are they so pushy about this kind of reform? So one thing to look at is the balance sheet of CRC. Now, CRC is not public, but they do have publicly traded bonds. So I found these statements for their bonds. And this is from 13 to 15, and then this one goes from 16 to 18. Right? Look at, well, cash is always going to be a small portion because it's asset heavy, as one would expect. Look at fixed asset, very high, a huge portion of their total asset, and then debt. This is 3 trillion. This is 3 trillion yuan. Okay, so the GDP of China in 2018 or something is around less than 100 trillion yuan. Right, so this is already significant, but then if you look at here, the debt is now 4.2 trillion. So you about 5% of the entire Chinese GDP. And when people talk about Chinese debt problem, well, this is one of them. So what are you going to do with this? One way is by selling assets, obviously. To deleverage, you sell the assets. And how would you do that? You can basically go public. So there is this. So they're trying to get the high-speed rail between Beijing and Shanghai public. Who knows how much money they will fetch. This thing makes, let's just see, 365 days. So this, give it 4 zeros, divide by 1 billion. They make 13 billion yuan of profit a year. So give it a 20 multiple, as Chinese are usually very value things very richly, especially if it's an IPO. So you're gonna get something like 270-ish billion. Wow, it does make a dent at this 4 trillion debt, but not enough. What else can you do? You can also sell more of your asset that are already public. So GSH is already public. It's 37.17% owned by CRC. And they want to sell more of that, but they don't want to sell it under book, right? Because if you sell under book, your leverage actually goes up. They want to fetch a good price. So how would they fetch a good price? Well, you have to increase the earning power of GSH somewhat. And one way is by selling land that's already in it, or you could increase their pricing power, or you could you could mimic what the Japanese do with their stations. So, like, for example, damn it, I was trying to find. Yeah, for example, if you look at Tokyo Station, which is, let me see if I can make this bigger. Wow. Ooh la la. Huh. Okay, I think this is as good as it gets. So this is the Tokyo Station, the train station. They have this piece of land that's actually within the what do you call those? What are these, turnpikes? Turnpikes, I think. Anyway, so the pink part is within the turnpike, and then everything else are shops. So all these are shopping areas. And they will lease that out, and that's going to bring in a lot of earnings. And I think that's something that they should do. I will do another video on how the Japanese railways companies make money. But essentially, we don't have any of that for GSH. If you look at their profit and loss statement, well, they have passenger revenue, they have freight revenue, and they have some revenue for servicing other railroads or other railway companies' trains that's passing through their place. That's about it. So a huge missing part is the revenue from non-railway sources. So yeah, so that's that. And to recap, we have the central government pushing for some kind of reform. The reason is that I think CRC is leveraged too high. It's not ridiculous. It's 65% debt to GDP, debt to asset, but who knows how much of these assets are actually worth until you try to sell them. So that's the reason. And then in terms of actual actions, we already see some of the initiatives to make these what they call comprehensive development projects around railway stations, and that is basically this is just a supplement to my bullish thesis on GSH in terms of their hidden asset. All right, see you next time.